Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as both great houses hold their ground for yet another fight. Of note in Restless Shore, a quick attack by Hexacon had the defense on their back feet for close to 25 minutes. KOTT news crews were able to get a reaction from one of the defenders. 25 minutes is a long time to hold one objective. Congratulations on your victory tonight. Would you like to take us through it?
I believe they came in strong. They played really well. They took those points. They deserved them. But when it came down to the fort fight, we got our shit together and a lot of fun fighting them for 25 minutes. Shout out to Suezu. He was out there 1D everyone with no healer. Also, Panda Uchiha. He's not as good as Brewster as Suezu, but he did alright.
Returning to last night's breaking news, the concentrated spice wave escaping from a breached spice containment subsystem in First Light can now be clearly seen as far away as Cutlass Keys. KOTT News will bring you more on this story as it develops. In local entertainment news, the Ebonscale Tourism Council will be hosting a concert in the park tonight. We spoke with one of the headliners during their dress rehearsal.
No, it'll just be me. I may have one or two people from the company might come in and sing one or two songs. But usually I like singing a bunch of different stuff. I usually sing like vocal covers. And I usually start off with a couple funny songs, break it down, and then we break it up. And I'll start going branching out from there. Mostly I sing a lot of country and rock songs that I do vocal covers for. I do a couple sea shanties too.
And what time can people come and see you, and where can they see you here in Ebonscale?
Oh, so right here at Ebonscale, it'll be at 6 server. We're going to try to push it early because everyone's busy with the wars. Everyone's out there. Thank LARPco, working out there. But it's going to be right here in Ebonscale, right next to the auction house at the second trap house. You'll literally see coming in from the teleporter. You can't miss it.
KOTT News reminds you that online experiences are not rated by the ESRB. Turning to the weather, and it's going to be another beautiful morning all day long, well into early evening, when unusual coastal El Niños will cause a swelling of invasions around the perimeter of the island. 3 submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard! Up first, the Covenant forces of Hero assail the Syndicate forces of Hooded Outcasts for control of the region of First Light. It is unknown at this time if Hero forces offered to postpone the event due to the spice explosion that rocked the crafting district late last night. This unexpected emergency will split the attention of Hooded Outcasts leadership tonight as they struggle to contain both the breach and the beach. In the main event, the Marauders of Black Air Forces challenge the Syndicate forces of Black Wolves Company for their championship title and the right to rule over Everfall. Black Air Forces return for their second attempt at the title after losing to the champs 2 weeks ago. Have they grown stronger since then? For Black Wolves Company, a win tonight will move them beyond the forces of the Reckoning into sole possession of 3rd place on the all-time Neverfall list. In the nightcap, the Syndicate forces of Washed Doritos rob the Marauders of Dropouts for the financial capital of Windsward. Newcomer Washed Doritos take the best part of the seasoned corn chip and remove it, leaving only a bland, wet corn chip. For the forces of Dropouts, they're more concerned about the blatant product placement. Everyone knows this is a LARPco production. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as Black Wolves Company go down with 8 minutes remaining and a new championship belt holder emerges. We spoke with a Marauder representative after the fight.
They four-camped us the last time we packed, and they got some confidence because, we didn't have the best plan coming into the fort, but, it was alright. Then, we decided not to let anyone have fun anymore, attacked Everfall, and proved that we're just the better players.
Well, now that you've taken Everfall and unified the central corridor of the island, what are your intentions going forward? Is this enough, or is there more to come?
I think we'll, just mess around here until region transfers come, and then we'll go to the East Coast and do the same thing to them.
Turning to the weather, and the sun will bounce around all day long until late evening cold fronts from the north will bring a 20% chance of invasions with them. 2 submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution brought to you by LARPCO. Remember, if it isn't LARPCO, it's cardboard. Up first, the Syndicate forces of Secrets attack the Covenant forces of El Dorado Waiting Room for control of the bamboo forest preserves and medicinal hot springs of Ebonscale. Secrets return to the resort destination for the 3rd time this week in their effort to re-secure the hamlet. For the forces of El Dorado Waiting Room, the concert in the park last night has reignited their spark, so their will is sure to be bright. In the nightcap, the Marauders of the Resurgent assault the Covenant forces of Lost Templar for the primary oil reserves of Weaver's Fen. The Resurgent become the first group of Marauders to assault the Zealots of the Fen since they acquired it nearly a month ago. For Lost Templar, being accustomed to the peat moss fields may have been an advantage before, but will it fatigue the Marauders tonight? Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Secrets finally break through and re-secure the resort destination of Ebonscale. We spoke with a Secrets representative after the fight. Congratulations on your victory, and how do you feel it went?
It went absolutely fantastic. We had a lot of momentum. I think we caught them a little off guard. I think they were trying to get themselves reformed, and our momentum just kind of took us all the way through. We captured A very quickly, captured B very quickly, had a brief fight on C, straight into the fort where they held us off pretty decently for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then, the snowball basically did the rest.
Now, are you expecting the same thing from me, that we're going to see these forces again in the future, perhaps a little more focused?
I think every company goes through their ups and downs, and the ebb and flow of the way, these kind of social networks work. I wish them the best. I hope that they, if they're having some issues, that they can pull back through, because they are a strong company. They're great dudes, and we like the competition.
Briefly to the weather, and after a sunny morning all day long again, 2 convergent invasion forces will meet in the central corridor, so plan your travel accordingly. 4 roster submissions for Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPCO. Remember, if it isn't LARPCO, it's cardboard. Up first, the Covenant forces of Bankrupt attack the Syndicate forces of Washed Millennials for the northernmost region of Morningdale. The forces of Bankrupt managed to scrape up enough money to fund another war, and they returned to Morningdale to do it. The Washed Millennials turned them away before and feel confident they will succeed again, even if they lose a couple flags to an improved offense. Then, the Covenant forces of Go Dogs assail the Marauders of the Landlords for control of the master fishing port town of Reekwater. The perhaps overzealous forces of Go Dogs run 2 simultaneously, starting here in the swamp. For the Landlords, they have held off the attempts of others to adversely possess their lands before, and they're prepared to do it again. Meanwhile, the Covenant forces of Go Dogs climb up the western bluff and challenge the Syndicate forces of Nameless for the Monarch's crown. Running on faith, the forces of Go Dogs believe they will be able to field 100 combatants. The forces of Nameless hold their 4th fight since taking the bluff 2 weeks ago. They should be prepared for split forces. In the nightcap, the Covenant forces of Regime assail the Syndicate forces of Secrets for control of the secondary oil reserves of Cutlass Keys. Regrouping from a restructuring week, the forces of Regime travel to the Keys to return the favor from last night. Secrets spent the evening unwinding in the hot springs, recovering from their battle last night, and should be ready for back-to-back fights. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Another dynamic change in Eternum for the third straight night as the Covenant forces of Go Dogs dethrone Nameless and secure the crown of Monarch's Bluff. KOTT news crews arrived on the scene, but were unable to reach Go Dogs leadership for comment. However, we did get this reaction from a citizen on the street. What do you think about the outcomes of tonight's fight, citizen on the street?
It was a good fight. It was honestly a good fight. I think it's pretty good for the server. Nice mix of color within the map. And I think it's good.
There you go. Anything else you'd like to say to the citizens at home?
Hi, Mom.
Checking the weather, and it's looking like the sun will come in from the south today, then take a hard right out to the east, before swarms of invasions, confused by the event, will stumble into Weaver's Fin. 2 simulated fantasy combat resolutions tonight, brought to you by LARPCO. Remember, if it isn't LARPCO, it's cardboard. Up first, the syndicate forces of Primordius Virtue return to the bear-infested deep forests of Brightwood and challenge the Marauders of Dropouts. Primordius Virtue march into the forests with the intention of reclaiming what they originally purchased on day 1 swimming ashore. Is tonight the night they return? For the combined forces of Dropouts, their control of the central corridor will allow them to respond quickly with reinforcements from the south, if they think they need it. Then, the Covenant forces of Hammer assail the Syndicate forces of Stronghold in their attempt to control the always restless shore. The newcomers of Hammer seem to have a certain way of looking at the world. To them, everything looks like a nail. But it's gonna take more than a couple of hammers to demolish the structural integrity of the forces of Stronghold. It's gonna take LARPCO. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the Covenant forces of Hammer secure the eastern archipelago of the Restless Shore. We caught up with the newly anointed governor of the hamlet to discuss the battle and their intentions. Congratulations on your victory out there. A couple of quick takes early put them on their back feet until the end. Was it all strategy, or did you find some fortuitous moments?
It was both. I think we had a good strategy, had a good plan in place. We brought in, we're a small company, but we brought in a lot of players from the not just Yellow faction, but from Green as well. Green really helped us out big time, and it was a coordinated effort. So give credit to everybody, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
And what are your intentions for Restless Shore now that you're in control?
We were thinking about, now that Yellow has another land on another place to live, we can grow the town a little bit, make it a home for the East Coast, and build it up a little bit, and kind of take it from there.
Turning to the weather, and it looks like this morning will be sunny all day, lasting throughout the afternoon until early evening invasions begin emerging around the edges of the island. 4 roster submissions for simulated fantasy combat resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPCO. Remember, if it isn't LARPCO, it's cardboard. Up first, it's the Covenant forces of Hero returning to try again against the Syndicate forces of JC's fan club for control of First Light and control of the Spice. The forces of Hero try again after failing in a valiant effort 4 days ago. Will they break through this time? As for JC's fan club, their rapid response to emergency situations in the crafting district this week has citizen morale at an all-time high, and they're rooting for the Spice Lords. Meanwhile, the Covenant forces of El Dorado Waiting Room assault the Syndicate forces of Secrets for control of the bamboo forest preserves and medicinal hot springs of Ebonscale. Declaring their right to rematch, the forces of El Dorado Waiting Room return to the hot springs, intent on recapturing the hamlet. The forces of Secrets know who they're up against, having won and lost against them before. But this time, the rosters are different. Will the outcome be? Also, The Covenant forces of Exiled challenge the Marauders of Payouts for their championship title and the right to rule over Everfall. The newcomers of Exiled make their first attempt to secure land by going toe-to-toe with the recently entitled champion. For Payouts, their first defense of their championship belt as they begin their Neverfall journey. Will this be the start that surpasses 13? In the nightcap, the Syndicate forces of Battlesnakes attack the Marauders of Dropouts for control of the financial capital of Windsward. Battlesnakes make their second attempt to secure land on the island after failing against Milk Regime 2 weeks ago in Ebonscale. For Dropouts, they're happy to see someone that's more interested in the combat than the prize, and look forward to a full-length competition. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No changes in the dynamic of Eternum last night as an evening of peace spread across the island. No changes in the weather either, as the sun will rise in the morning and shine all day again until a matinee invasion kicks off a 30% chance of invasion periodically throughout the night. 5 simulated fantasy combat resolution on tap for tonight, brought to you by LARPGO. Remember, if it isn't LARPGO, it's cardboard! Up first, the Covenant forces of Gilded Outlaw assault the Syndicate forces of Washed Millennials for control of the northernmost region of Morningdale. Gilded Outlaws have made multiple attempts to seize land along the eastern coast. Now, they're trying more inland. Washed Millennials continue to maintain the forward observation post while handling the excessive water flow brought on by torrential rains. Then, the Covenant forces of Exiled assail the Marauders of Landlord for control of the primary fishing port town of Reekwater. The newcomer of Exiled make their debut by calling for a triple header against the standing Great Houses. The Landlords of Reekwater welcome the split forces of Exiled to the swamps and look forward to seeing what they've got. Meanwhile, the Covenant forces of Exiled assault the Syndicate forces of Secrets for control of the Bamboo Forest Preserves and Medicinal Hot Springs of Ebonscale. Exiled forces split their attention in the 8 o'clock slot, trying to double dip into the hot springs. The forces of Secrets defend themselves from Exiled twice tonight. They'll have to play them both like they're facing the varsity squad. Afterwards, the Marauders of the Resurgent attack the Covenant forces of Yap Yap for their crown and the right to rule the Monarch's Bluff. The Resurgent forces move swiftly to strike at the recently anointed Monarchs in an effort to catch them off guard. For the reigning Monarchs of the Bluff, Yap Yap have only held the crown for 4 days, but their fort upgrades have been diligent, and they should be ready. In the nightcap, the Covenant forces of Exiled assail the Syndicate forces of Secrets for control of the secondary oil reserves of Cutlass Keys. Exiled will make their final attempt to secure land tonight by facing the forces of Secrets again. For the forces of Secrets, they have the ability to field their varsity squad in both matchups tonight, but will they stay focused? We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of ex-hooded outcasts maraud the northernmost fort of Morningdale. KOTT news crews were on the scene to interview the victors afterwards when an unexpected skirmish broke out. We go now to that footage. I'm here at Fort Morningdale, where the newly anointed regional rulers of ex-hooded outcasts are being assaulted by the unified forces of Lost Templar as well as Ancient Templar, and it appears to be a coordinated effort to catch the Marauders off guard and quickly throw the region into conflict. That top story again: Marauders of ex-hooded outcasts win Morningdale, victory celebration put on hold by the forces Templar. Back to you in the studio, JC. Thanks, JC. Turning to the weather, and it's going to be a beautiful morning all day long, once again, until evening cold fronts from the north will cause invasions along the northern regions. Only one simulated fantasy combat resolution tonight, brought to you by LARPCO. Remember, if it isn't LARPCO, it's cardboard. Tonight, the Covenant forces of Exiled challenge the Marauders of JChalant for control of the bear-infested deep forests of Brightwood. The newcomers of Exiled have sprayed on their Dr. Bombastus bear repellent and march into the woods to conquer the keep. For JChalant, currently rebranding as East Waiting Room, their stretch of wins in the woods have quietly made them the second most tenured Great House. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News.